Thanks. I thought I got it. I clicked admit, yeah.
Okay, done.
Let me see something. And I'm starting. I want to close.
Okay, that's all right. Sure. Are you ready?
Not yet.
Okay. Can they hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, since you can hear me, I'd like to confirm we're just waiting for a quorum.
Yeah.
We'll give it a couple more minutes. We are expecting a quorum.
Yeah. Is Andy, Dave, Gail, any of those
We just need one.
to start?
And there's Andy.
Hey.
Andy.
Andy, Dave, and yeah. Okay.
Andy, are you there? All right, Vice Chair Stoll, we do now have quorum. Oh, wait, Andy must not have got joined.
Yeah, well, yeah.
He got bumped out. We gotta get him rejoined.
Okay. We
Hi.
have Dave.
Can I ask a quick question while we're waiting? It's Erin. So
Erin.
do we need Rafi for quorum since I'm here?
No,
Okay, because he does have something to address and I didn't want to mess up the meeting. Okay, thank you.
no. Yeah, thank you. All right, Vice Chair Stoll, we now have quorum. If you would like to call the meeting to order and get us started.
All right, Happy New Year's, everyone. I'd like to call it to order the Mountain Lion TAC meeting at 10:02 on January the 4th, 2024. Rhonda, do you want to go ahead and do the roll call?
Yes, thank you, Chairman and members of the TAC. I'm letting in one more person here. So, okay. Coconino County, Tiffany Kerr is excused. Andy Bertelson,
Present.
thank you. Coconino County Citizen Representative Carol Covington,
Also present.
thank you. City of Flagstaff, both Vice Chair Greg Clifton and Jeff Bowman are, I'm sorry. Greg Clifton is now the chair effective January 1, and Jeff Bowman are excused. City of Flagstaff Citizen Representative Michelle James.
Present.
Thank you. Metro Plan Dave Wessel.
Happy New Year, everyone. I'm here.
Thank you. NAU Aaron Stum
Good morning here.
and Aaron, was Rafi going to sign off?
I think he already did.
Okay, then I will
Yeah.
remove him. NAU student Maria Matchler is excused. They're still on break. CCC Kurt Stull,
Here.
thank you. And our economic development representative Gail Jackson.
Here.
Thank you. And we do have our new attorney for the TAC. Her name is Cameron Stanley with us. Cameron?
I see her, but she can.
Okay, she's muted, I guess, so. Anyway, welcome, and I will just turn it over to Heather for a comment here about our outgoing attorney.
As I wanted to let everyone know, Chris Beecher, who has served as the attorney specifically assigned to the Transit Advisory Committee, but to Mountain Line for a number of issues through Dickinson Wright, who is our legal counsel. He has moved on and is no longer at Dickinson Wright. And we did have the opportunity to thank him for all of his service. He is now with the Navajo Nation. And so I believe our roads will cross again in the future. And we look forward to continuing to have good conversations with Chris in his role at the Navajo Nation and with the nation about transit and connection with transit services. But we are grateful that Cameron was able to step in and take on this role, and certainly welcome her to her first Transit Advisory Committee meeting. So please, all of you, be nice.
And
Our next item on the agenda is our safety minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Transit Advisory Committee. Today's safety minute is on winter weather driving. Surprisingly, the roads are a dangerous place on even the nicest day, but in the winter, the dangers of driving can increase dramatically. According to the Department of Transportation, winter weather conditions are responsible for over 192,000 injuries and 2,200 deaths each year across the country. Outside injury and loss of life, winter weather conditions are responsible for millions of dollars in property damage incidents. Here's some winter weather driving tips that can help keep you safe. Allow more time to get to your destination. This will allow you to lower your speed and take your time. Feeling rushed while driving on icy roads is a recipe for disaster. Keep your gas tank full. If you ever do get stuck somewhere, you will have enough fuel to run your vehicle and help keep you warm until help can arrive. If you're stuck in the snow and are running your vehicle for warmth, make sure your exhaust pipe is not blocked or packed with snow. This will prevent carbon monoxide poisoning to occupants in the vehicle. Double your normal following distance. This will allow you plenty of time to react to hazardous situations ahead of you. And never start driving before all of your windows are free of obstructions like ice and snow. The best way to avoid an accident during the winter months is to avoid driving in dangerous conditions. But if you absolutely have to drive in bad weather conditions, use these tips to help keep you safe. Thank you and welcome to the January Transit Advisory Committee meeting.
Thank you, Sam. Our next item is Heather with milestone anniversaries.
Great, thank you. So we have 4 milestones to recognize, and just as a reminder, we did not meet in December, so we will recognize December as well as January anniversaries this month. And the first one is Sandra Tavel. Sandra actually works at MetroPlan, which via our relationship is an employee of Mountain Line, and so we are celebrating her first anniversary. She is an absolute delight to work with. She has a positive and engaging approach to her job, and it is quite infectious. It's hard not to smile when you're working with Sandra. She's working on the local match capacity project that's really designed to help all of us know how to match those federal dollars that were awarded under the bipartisan infrastructure law recently. And we are very excited to see the outcome of that work and the plan on how else we could match those funds. The second milestone anniversary we'll recognize is at the bottom of the screen, Josh Stone. Josh started out in our accounting division as a payroll specialist and is now our management services director. Josh's expertise in areas of payroll and finance have resulted in improved efficiencies, new accounting software solutions to simplify and streamline these functions, and has produced 3 years of financial audits without significant findings. Josh regularly knows stuff about stuff, and he simply says, I'm geeky that way. We're so grateful to have him on our team. On the top right-hand side, Michael Martinez came back to Mountain Line roughly a year ago. He did work for us as a transit bus operator back in 2012, before leaving to go work for another CDL position. We're glad to have him back as he is a strong member of the team and is focused on meeting the commitments we make to the public. And lastly, at the bottom right is Rachel Scala. She started with Mountain Line as a transit operator and moved into the role of operations supervisor roughly 18 months ago. In that role, she's able to use her leadership skills to support our operators in the field and aid our customers in their trip planning needs. Rachel has a keen sense for consistency and is a big part of developing much needed standard procedures for reliable expectations for our team. I'm happy to celebrate these 4 individuals and their milestone anniversaries. And before we move on to the next item, I have to add one retirement announcement. This is unusual for Mountain Line. We've not had many retirees as we are such a young agency, but Jen Petrie has been a transit bus operator at Mountain Line since June of 2011. And we are very pleased to celebrate with her retirement. After 12 years of dedicated service to our community, Jen will retire on January 15th. She has been a cornerstone within our team, and as she has delivered high quality customer service and has had one of the best service records across her career, meaning attendance, safety, and performance. We'll miss Jen tremendously, but are happy to see her reach her goal of retirement. We will internally have a small celebration for Jen later this month, but I wanted to share the retirement news with all of you.
Thank you, Heather, and congratulations to Jen on her retirement. The next is the call to public. Rhonda, I don't know if anyone else has showed up in the last minute.
No.
Nope. All right, so there
No
will
one
be.
here.
Yep, okay. So we'll go move on to the next one. It will be the approval for the TAC minutes for the November 2nd meeting. Do we have any comments on the meetings or the minutes from the meetings before we check for approval? Hearing no comments, and I'd like to see, would someone like to approve the TAC minutes?
This is Erin. I make a motion to approve.
And Mrs. Carroll, I will second Erin's motion.
Right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, it carries unanimously. All right, the next item we have is bus stop improvement priorities from Estella.
New chair, members of the TAC. My name is Bella Hollander and I'm the planning manager for Mountain Line. Oh, we did.
Oh, we have the one consent item. I'm sorry, we skipped over that. We will need to go back just to see if there's any questions. There's no presentation.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. So we do have the one consent agenda item. Do we have any comments from any of the TAC members?
This is Carol. I had a couple of questions or suggestions. First, I started reading this and I'm like, okay, what is Title VI? So I think it would be useful for the board if there was some explanation of what the context is for the whole conversation being presented. The other comment that I had was that in the staff report, the citation of strategic plan, of relationship to the strategic plan or how it supports the strategic plan doesn't say anything. It just says, yeah, it's like, it's all good, basically, which I found to be a little disconcerting. I thought, gosh, why don't you at least, give us some examples of the ways in which this is supporting the strategic plan. So those were my 2 comments and suggestions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on. Stella, now you can start.
Excellent, thank you, Chair. So yeah, I'm gonna provide an update on the bus stop improvement priorities. So I think pretty much everyone was attending the October TAC and board advance where Mountain Line staff, we facilitated an activity to an interactive activity to prioritize bus stops in need of amenity improvements. So we broke out into 4 different groups with both TAC and board members as well as some staff. Basically to review 29 different sign stops. So the sign stops are the ones with the least amount of amenities. And basically to prioritize them throughout our system of turning them into top priority, high priority, medium, and low priority. And so I have here just the top 15, but in the packet are the full list of priorities. And on the next slide, I do have a map as well, but basically we averaged out the 4 different groups of their different scoring. Nothing was too different, honestly. There wasn't any major discrepancies where one group did like low priority and one did a top. It was somewhat all somewhat in agreement, which was nice to see. And then any bus stops that maybe were tied, we also had staff prioritization, so that kind of helped figure out which one maybe was above the other one. But again, there was very little discrepancies between staff priorities and what the TAC and board recommended. And so these are just the top 15 mapped out, but again, in the packet do has the full list. As you can see, it's a lot of the different bus stops kind of in Sunnyside along like 4th Street, as well as in kind of the core downtown along Huntington. So it's really more the bus stops kind of on the either far east or west and kind of on the south of town that didn't make either the top 15, but you can definitely look in your packet to see what they did score. So in the advance, the TAC and board prioritized just the 29 sign stops. So we did have 13 additional logo stops. So those are the stops that have a little bench and a light, and but they don't have a shelter. So there's no, there's not a covering. And so those staff kind of included those in the list as well. So that's why we have a total of 42 bus stops. So in addition, staff reviewed the different prioritized list and looked at the feasibility to upgrade some of these stops. So we assign different point values to either constructability. So that's things like, is it somewhat easy to construct, or is there drainage issues? Do we need like a retention wall in order to upgrade this stop, maybe from like a sign to a shelter, for example? Also looked at budget, which really constructability and budget kind of go hand in hand. So yeah, if we do have to build like a little wall, obviously that would increase the ability to construct this. So that was either on a low, medium, or high. And then right-of-way concerns. So is it in already the public right-of-way, meaning it's very somewhat easy to construct, or would we need to get a transit easement? Or is there just really a lack of even right-of-way or ability to construct? So it's either again, kind of low, medium, or high. And then ADOT's jurisdiction. So a bus stop would receive more points if it was not an ADOT jurisdiction. And it's just essentially, it can be a bit more challenging to improve a stop in ADOT jurisdiction. We tend to then we might have to build a bus pullout and would have to go through a separate permitting process. So it just makes it a little bit more challenging if it is within ADOT jurisdiction. So kind of going through all the bus stops, 21% received high feasibility, and meaning somewhat easy to construct, meaning there weren't any major constructability challenges, low budget. It was within right-of-way, and it was not within ADOT's jurisdiction. Medium feasibility could have been a combination. Maybe it wasn't, or we would have needed to get a transit easement, but there weren't any constructability issues. And then low feasibility was 24%. But as we kind of staff will review and put together a bit of an implementation plan, but it doesn't mean that staff will necessarily like, oh, we can go ahead and construct all the high feasibility. It could be that, for example, if there's a city capital project, for example, the city recently received Safe Streets for All grant, which is improving the Butler corridor from Milton to Sawmill. So there could be opportunities. There were several bus stops along that corridor that were in need of upgrading. So there might be opportunities to improve those stops through that city capital project. So next steps is implementation strategy. We will be presenting an implementation strategy in spring, and identify some further funding opportunities as well. And then discuss a transit easement acquisition procedure as well. So more to come on this topic, but at least this update provided a list of kind of where all these priorities sat, as well as dove a little bit deeper into that feasibility or implementation step. And that is the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any comments or questions?
Just, this is David Wessel. Just one question. Is there a budget available for the overall program at this time?
So we have budgeted 150,000, but that's really for existing stuff like rehabilitation and maintenance. So we do not have a budget identified for improvements per se. So this would be something that would need to be added into FY25's budget.
Okay, thank you very much.
This is Carol again. I had another. I'm looking at these reports with an eye towards making it more usable for the board when they receive it. And I just noticed that we were using 4th Street as spelling it out and 4th as the number. I thought maybe consistency there would help. The other thing, when I went through the list, I was trying to go back and remember, okay, what's the difference between shelter, logo, and sign? And I thought maybe those could be pulled out with bullets so that they're easier to go back and find the description of those within the context, you know, so that you can refer back to them. And that was it for me.
Thank you, Carol. I'll adjust those changes.
Gail?
Thank you. I know this was done in October, and I'm just curious if there's any reconsideration given the recent announcement with FUSD and all the students that will now be riding the bus, if there are other bus stops that need to be moved to the top based on that recent decision. And I guess, and then another question is, how many students are actually having to ride the Mountain Line bus with that transition?
Thank you, Gail. That's a good point about FUSD. So I think, yeah, we could take kind of another lens with that, or looking through the list again with that lens, and see which ones are near some of the middle schools and high schools, and see kind of where they fall on the list, and see if maybe they do need to be moved up a bit. So appreciate that comment. In terms of student ridership, so from my understanding, 600 students were eligible, meaning they lost bus service. And so, and then Mountain Line, we conducted several outreach events. And so we did sell or provide passes to 200 students. So about a third of students, which I think is pretty great, received semester passes to be able to ride the service. And so FUSD did provide these passes free of charge to the students. I don't know if either Heather or Jackie want to expand.
Yep, Gail, I would just add that we were out in the field this morning, and I don't think it's fair for us to use today as a measuring stick for what ridership might be generated out of the changes at FUSD, because they keep snow on top of and the first day back and all of those things. But we will be closely watching what are the travel patterns, what are the demands. We will be able to know how many of those passes are regularly being used. So that we'll work closely with the school district to understand that demand. So we will come back with additional reports specific on how are things going with that change from FUSD over to Mountain Line, providing you anecdotal comments and stories as we have them, data, etc. I just don't think we have enough right now to give you. I would tell you that we had really no increased demand this morning. We were prepared for an influx of ridership, and we did not see that, but we do think that the snow may have changed some travel decisions for individuals this morning. But thank you for the question, and we will certainly come back with more information on that.
For sure. And do you think that FUSD might be able to contribute to some of these bus stop improvements? Because $150
I think that
isn't gonna go
there are-
very far.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of funding conversations that we still are prepared to have in conjunction with FUSD. Our first goal was to get students to school. And so every conversation we've had with the school district and with families has been based on, you had a yellow bus that got you to school, now here's how you use a blue bus to do the same thing. But yes, those conversations with the school district about maybe making sure other students have access to the same bus pass program, how does that get funded? Also improvements like, I don't know that it's additional stops because really we have good established stops near most of the FUSD schools, that definitely improvements at those stops will be part of that conversation. The school district does have access to funding that we do not have access to, just based on the different, brackets of money available to public agencies. So we'll definitely be having those conversations. And again, I'll be part of that overall progress report.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, thank you, Estella.
Thank you.
Our next item is for Heather, and it's employee engagement survey results.
Great, thank you. All right, so we have concluded our annual employee engagement survey. And I'm here today to share with you the results that were prepared in collaboration with the consultant that helped us conduct this survey. So a little bit of information about the survey is that we did work with a consultant. TransPro Consulting has been providing training and coaching. You may recall they were at, I think, the May meeting to help us reconsider our vision and our mission, and then also assisted staff with core values. We then tied those core values into this engagement survey in a way that we have never done before. And so they conducted this survey. Today, we are going to talk about the methodology, what's different between this survey and prior surveys, what are employee perceptions that we have interpreted from the survey results, a comparison to some of prior surveys so we can see what's changed, and then what are some of the things we're going to do next? What are our final thoughts and what are those next steps? So the methodology for the survey is that we did conduct it 100% online. We did have 62% of our employees participate, which is a little lower than what we typically like to see. We like to be in the 80% range. So, we will talk to the consultant, we will talk to staff to try and figure out why there was that lag in participation. And you can see in the table on the bottom of this slide, our operations division only had 30% participation. And that's an ongoing challenge with operators that are in the field on a regular basis. And in the past, we've definitely had staff available to sit down with them and give them tablets in the field to do the survey. And I don't think we were able to accomplish that this survey round. And so we will reprioritize that in the future. Again, this is the once a year opportunity we really have to kind of get some feedback and test the temperature of employee engagement. So what was new in the 2024 engagement survey? We did ask these 4 core questions. They are designed to better understand and define employee engagement for us. And then we use these to come up with our employee engagement score. So the employee engagement score, here are those 4 questions. When we ask them of employees, and you can see the second question here is really the only question that we could say is 100% like a question asked in prior surveys. And so that's why you only see that one as compared to what they call wave 1, which is a prior survey, and wave 2, which is our current. Across the board, the scores add up to a total engagement score of 76. That is 76 out of 100, or three quarters of our staff would report that they are appropriately engaged through these 4 questions that we have asked. We'll pause because that's different than we've ever presented it before, and just ask if you have any questions or if I can expand upon that before I move on. All right, I will just keep moving. Just FYI, Sam, you're not muted. So we did tie our employee engagement score to our Mountain Line core values. And just as a reminder, here are the 6 core values that we have done a lot of training with our staff. We had multiple training sessions that talk about our mission, the re-envisioned, the new vision as set by the board of directors and the transit advisory committee, and our core values, how those tie to the work that we do and the jobs that people provide. And now we're tying it into employee engagement itself. And so these questions are all categorized around these 6 core values. And here is the score or average of the engagement questions, which we're going to go into detail as they tie to each of these core values. So 100% of employees are committed to the customer and the customer experience. 69% feel, sorry, my printing got terrible small. Are committed to actively listening to teammates and communicating clearly and with compassion. So that's about communication. 67% feel valued and respected and are treated with kindness and grace. And we're going to go into some questions that help us understand that score a little bit better. The 76% is based on integrity. My work environment is built to foster trust and honesty. And then embodying challenges, that's I commit to solving problems collaboratively with an eye to improving. And that's 98%. And the final one, sustainability, is that we are committed to encouraging transportation alternatives to meet our community's sustainability goals. So the 3 areas that we're going to venture more into when we talk about next steps are really communication, making every member feel treated with respect and valued, and creating a system of accountability and trust. And there's comments for us that help us understand the scores. I just want to point out, if you're used to looking at this under the old system, we used a point system and we scored these as 1 out of 5. 1 means that you are deeply unsatisfied. 5 meant you were highly satisfied. And so the 80% means that they would have scored us 4 out of 5, just to give you a relationship, tying this back to our old scoring system. That was helpful for me, so I thought it might be for you as well. So looking at perception results, these are things that TransPro helped us garner in their role as the expert in doing these surveys. We are pleased that TransPro does not just do this work for us as a transportation or a transit industry transit provider. They do this for multiple transit systems across the nation. And so we're really able to look at transit work environments specifically, which is different than when we've had other HR experts advise us on this, where they just look at it from an HR or employee perspective. So employees are most satisfied with the commitment to making a welcoming environment for all. That was that 100% score. Commitment to solving problems with an eye for improving services. That was the core value. Embodying challenges, and job performance is important to the success of Mountain Line. So that fits under one of those other core values. Employees are least satisfied with compensation. Anybody surprised to hear that? Tolerable level of work stresses. That was not surprising for us to hear. And that Mountain Line taking employee feedback seriously, only scored at 57 as well. I did think it was interesting, the little graph on the side, the little pie chart. 50% of the employees who participate in the survey identified that they've only worked for Mountain Line for a year or less. So that tells you about the perspective of employees here. Is those employees that are the most impactful to the scoring that we are seeing is employees who have been here only a year. So this breaks down the questions into 3 main, or I'm sorry, I think it's 3. Let me look. It's 4 categories. So the questions are then summarized into categories. The first category is performance. And you can see here the scores related to the questions that were asked. The only category that actually went significantly down is the onboarding process. The onboarding process was complete and comprehensive. This was In the past, we have not asked all employees this question. We have only asked it of employees who have worked here that were hired, within the last 2 years. In the survey that we presented this time, every employee could provide an answer to that question. So we don't know if that influenced the answer to this question or not. I would argue that we do a much more comprehensive onboarding process at Mountain Line than we ever have before. And so we will be doing some interviews with staff to better understand what the context is around this particular score so that we know what is hitting the right mark with employees when we talk about onboarding and what are we missing. There are several areas that are not just the same, but did grow even insignificantly. I see a clear connection between my work and department policies that went up by 2%. I believe my job performance is important to the success of Mountain Line. That went up 4%. And the last question at 88%, it's not a direct same question as we have asked in the past. So it is there as an isolated number of 88%. I'll pause just quickly to see if there's any questions. The next category of questions was about feedback. So this is about the conversations that employees have available to them through our leadership team and or direct conversations with supervisors. And you can see here almost all areas have improved. Receiving consistent and objective performance evaluations. This is specifically something that we identified at the end of last evaluation cycle that we were going to spend time in improving. And I'm pleased that that score has improved. We are continuing to focus on our evaluation process, adding in informal conversations with staff that provide that regular feedback. So that it's not just at your 6 and 12-month reviews, but it is a regular and reoccurring conversation. We're also including more staff in providing that feedback to staff. The other area that I think ties directly to conversations that we have had in the past is I believe Mountain Line takes employee feedback seriously. If you were here last year when we provided results of this, one of the things that we talked about is we did not have in-person staff meetings, and that many of the comments were, there's no in-person staff meeting, I'm not able to give feedback or suggestions, and therefore I cannot be taken seriously. So there is movement in that score. And I believe that is related to the fact that we have returned to in-person meetings. It's something we will continue focusing on. But again, this is an area where we will spend some time with employees to put context around that score. Briefly, any questions? The next category of questions was around job satisfaction. So not just employee engagement, but actual satisfaction with the job. And you can see the big declining one there is the barely compensated in my position. And we are going to spend some time trying to understand this. I think it's more a sign of circumstances than it truly is that Mountain Line suddenly doesn't pay as well. Mountain Line has worked very hard to keep its wages competitive with the market, but I think there's a general sense in today's world that everything costs more, and pay and the feelings about pay are pressed by that feeling of, I don't have enough money. My dollar doesn't go as far, so therefore I'm not paid enough money. But again, we're going to continue doing the work around pay and compensation to understand them. The other score that dropped is I would recommend Mountain Line to a friend as a rewarding workplace, and we will spend some time trying to understand that. This has actually always been a highly scored area, and so it's not a big move, but we'd like to understand why someone would a year ago recommend us and now wouldn't. So what changed, and what do we need to do better? Any questions on job satisfaction? The last category of questions was about management. So this is more the direct relationship an employee has with their manager, and you can see across the board most of the scores were relatively the same. There are some ups and some downs, but mostly the same. I can talk to my manager about job expectations and performance goals. I think that ties back to the feedback score a little bit. And then communication between my manager and me is straightforward and consistent. Again, those are all the efforts we've been applying to the relationships that managers have with staff, and ensuring that we're staffed correctly so that our managers, our supervisors are available for staff and for those conversations versus the perception that no one's ever available when I need them. We've also increased the communication tools that staff have. And we continue to encourage employees to use all the tools available and not just the office drop-in. Any questions on the management section? I don't have the rest of the slides, so sorry, I'm not going to be able to look at the owl because now I have to look at the screen. I apologize. Employee safety is the last section of the questions that we ask. We used to ask this in only a single question. You would have to go back several years to understand that, but we used to say, do you feel safe at work? And you can see we've continued to really mature and make that question more sophisticated so that we're really understanding about employee safety and customer safety. And the one score on here that we continue to be very focused on is work stresses. We have gone into reduced service. We did that in November, and that was a direct relationship to work stresses for our operators. The operators were doing double shifts on a pretty regular basis. Our overtime was extremely high, and we have managed to drop that. And we will continue to stay in reduced service to help staff manage their overall work stresses while we continue to recruit and bring in new staff members. And then and it isn't just about operators. I know we have a lot of other staff. We've had the same problem in our fleet division, more related to absences or leave or new technology. But again, those are all workplace stressors that we need to consider and address. As we go into budget 2025, we will be talking a lot about, are we resourced correctly for all of the projects and all of the innovation that we are trying to do here at Mountain View. So some key takeaways, according to our consultants who we're working with, and Cody Weaver is here in the room with me, HR manager, and she's been an active participant in both doing the survey and reviewing these results and working with Trends Pro. So I'll just highlight, they've put on here 2 of the questions they believe supports this key takeaway. Personnel expressed concerns with work stress caused by added responsibilities from vacancies, where mandatory overtime and compressed schedules create a more hectic work life. These stressors are exasperated, I can't say that word and I apologize, by perceived communication inefficiencies. And so again, the 2 things I said we were working on is that ongoing, what does communication mean to you, and getting fully staffed and looking at how our projects and innovations are impacting staff. Another key takeaway, many employees wrote, this is from the comments, that they feel a recognition program would be a positive move and foster open communication between upper management and frontline employees. I will be honest, and maybe not everyone on the team here would agree, but we have a very robust recognition program here at Mountain Line. So I think we need to better understand, what does an employee feel like recognition is and needs to be. So we're going to spend some time on that, but we will not let up on what we have until we identify where we are not resonating with staff. Pay is a big part of that based on the comment that was made there at the bottom. I think this is the 3rd and final key takeaway. Most Mountain Line employees feel that they are receiving fair compensation. I appreciate that that was their takeaway. That's not my takeaway. When 45% of employees are reporting that they are not fairly compensated, I don't think that most employees, that's not most to me. And so we will continue, as I said earlier, to evaluate, look at our compensation policies and whether they need to be adjusted or not, or what we need to do to help employees understand compensation as a full package. And so a couple final thoughts. We do allow staff to write in open comments throughout the survey, and we have all of those comments. I don't have them here in this presentation, and we as staff, as leadership, will continue to evaluate those comments and look at them from where did they come from and how do we address them. We tell staff at the beginning of the employee engagement survey that this is not to create a task list for us to do, but to help us understand where we might address emerging or urgent concerns. So a couple areas of improvement that we identified through the open responses were investigating the high turnover and making improvements to address major issues, invest in employees to improve retention, improve operator schedules, clearer communication and delineation of responsibilities, compensation, equitable pay scale that considers tenure, opportunities for advancement, more maintenance employees, field supervisors and operators, and lunch breaks. The best part of working at Mountain Line is improving mobility for the community, especially vulnerable populations, and the dedicated, friendly, and supportive coworkers. And I think the bottom bullet under that, best parts of working at Mountain Line, is something we all work very hard to do here, is to create a very inclusive environment. I like the comment that they've included on this slide of someone who feels very rewarded by their job. And I think it's a good example of how we draw in, attract and retain staff by finding folks who really like this job and can embrace it. It's not an easy job to drive a bus. It's not an easy job to drive a paratransit vehicle or to maintain. You come from a car industry or you come from a diesel industry, and now you're maintaining electric buses. These are not easy things for our staff to do. But when we work together and cooperatively, it makes it a good environment. I think that helps us all accept those challenges differently. So our next steps are to communicate the results to employees. So we will be doing this after the board reviews this in case they have questions or want us to do additional survey work. And then we'll continue to develop those strategies to address the most important factors, continue to listen and address employee feedback, continue to build capacity amongst our staff, and conduct that compensation study to look at wages and really evaluate what about our wages are not appropriate, or maybe they are. And with that, that's everything that I have on the employee survey, but I'd be happy to go back over anything if you saw something and you wanted to have me explore that further.
Any questions or comments for Heather?
Yeah, this is Andy Bertelson. Hey, Heather, I think I really appreciate that your organization has done these employee engagement survey results, and appreciate you sharing with the group. I think some of the outcomes of the survey are applicable throughout all of our organizations. And so thank you for leading the effort and sharing this with us.
Of course. Thanks for that, Andy.
Any other comments? Thank you, Heather. Our next items are progress reports. The progress reports that are located in your packet and available for you to read on your own time. If you have any questions or want to see any of these progress reports to be put on for a discussion item, we can let Heather know at this time so that we can put it on future meetings.
This is Carol again. I was confused about the first item, completion of the 2023 and 2024 financial update. It was confusing to me to know what the difference was between the 2023 results list and the 2024 update list, particularly since the 2024 update list included reference to items in November. So I was just kind of confused by that, and I don't know that I need to put it on a future agenda, but I wanted someone to know that was confusing.
Well, if I can respond, Carol, I appreciate the question, and we'll go back through the staff report, but Mountain Line operates on a fiscal year. And so if we weren't clear that we were referencing fiscal year 2023 ending in June of 2023, and then fiscal year 2024, which would have included November of 2023, we can certainly look at that. Not absolutely certain I addressed your comment, but we will look at it and try and make it more clear.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Any other questions or stuff on the progress reports? All right, hearing none, our next meeting is scheduled.
Sorry. Sorry,
Yes.
Chairman Stoll, may I go over a few current events? I know it's under progress report, but if I could just jump in
Yes,
briefly
yeah.
before we move on to close out. Thank you. So I apologize, the current events were not included in your packet. They have been sent as of this morning, and if you have follow-up questions after reading them, please let me know. But I wanted to share a couple key points with you. Mountain Line did launch our Mountain Express service on December 26th. We ran that service daily from December 26th to January 2nd. And just for anyone who's new to it, Mountain Express is the service that runs from the Downtown Connection Center to the Arizona Snowball Resort. We will continue to run that service on the weekends throughout the months of January and February. And this year, Snowball is providing a $10 resort voucher for anyone who chooses to use Mountain Express instead of driving up and parking at Snowball. So a little bit of an incentive to get them on the bus, and we're proud of that partnership that has helped with some of the traffic that we all saw in that corridor years ago. Appropriately timed, like Sam's message this morning, we are ready for snow. Through diligent planning and collaboration with our local partners at City of Flagstaff Streets and Parks and Recreation Divisions, we've successfully implemented measures to ensure a smooth and effective response to winter weather challenges. Our team worked tirelessly to enhance our snow preparation strategies, including timely equipment maintenance, training for employees, and refining our procedures. This proactive approach is aimed at minimizing disruptions and ensuring the safety and well-being of our community. Per our maintenance manager, Jeremiah McVicker, I want to express my gratitude to each of our team members in fleet and facilities for their dedication and hard work in making this initiative a success. The commitment to excellence is truly commendable. So that actually came to me days before the snowstorm. So congratulations to that team. Mountain Line staff is working with FUSD, as alluded to a little bit earlier in our meeting today. So we're working closely with FUSD staff and families to ensure that students who are impacted by the transportation changes have access to Mountain Line passes. This included attending 5 in-person events and handling task distribution at our office here at Mountain Line. So we have a list of eligible persons and can issue those passes without delay. Staff has also been available to help families with trip planning and other questions. And as Estella said, we've issued roughly 200 semester passes at this time. Fiscal year 2024 training review notice has been received. So what is training review, you might ask? Congress requires FTA to comprehensively review organizations who have federal transit funds for their programs. That review happens every 3 years, although there was a hiccup due to COVID, and it's been 4 years since they were here. A reviewer is scheduled to visit our site between March and September of 2024, and FTA will use the review to look at Mountain Line's management practices and compliance across many areas, such as financial management and capacity, technical capacity, maintenance, procurement, civil rights, and program-specific compliance requirements like ADA. This is a good opportunity to take a take a thorough look at all of our processes and be sure we are operating efficiently and effectively with our available resources. This will be Mountain Line's 8th review since 2001. And lastly, I want to share one staff announcement. Estella Hollander has been promoted. Estella Hollander was redefined to planning manager. Estella provides leadership on Mountain Line's long-range planning, grant strategy, and mobility management. And this redefinition is a reflection of her expertise and skill set in these areas. Congratulations, Estella. And lastly, I do have just our regular anniversaries to share with you. So these are the 6 anniversaries that we celebrated in the month of December. We had a couple in our operations division. Gavin, I will just share briefly. Gavin started with us as a bus washer and as recently as about 6 months ago, promoted to mechanic 1. So we're very excited to be witness to his development over the years. We still continue to celebrate Kate Marley's 8 years with Mountain Line, although she does not work for us directly. She is down the hall. We pester her on a regular basis. And then we have 5 anniversaries to share for the month of January. I'm celebrating 22 years this month, and Jim Wagner, who is located at the bottom on the left, is celebrating 18 years. Jim has really played a part in every significant thing that has happened at Mountain Line. He was here when we became Mountain Line. He left us for a short time. He came back. He launched service in the Verde Valley. He's been here and part of all the various projects in operations. Robert Helbers is part of our facilities team, serves as a great leader for that team and also for others around the building. Geraldine Lewis is within our transit division. The words that come to mind when I think of Geraldine is consistent and reliable. And Sheldon Yazzie joined our HR team originally as a temp, 3 years ago as a temp, and then became an employee around 2 years ago. And he really does everything recruitment. So every time we have to recruit a position, Sheldon is deeply involved in that. And we are appreciative. So just wanted to share those briefly. Sorry for the confusion. Chair Stoll, appreciate the moment.
Thank you, Heather, and a lot of great information there. I'll open it up to the group one more time if anybody had any other questions or comments. Hearing none, our next TAC meeting is Thursday, February 1st, 10 a.m. With that being said, I think we'll call the meeting to a close. To adjourn.